Okay, here is our next problem. It is light green and it is a lot tougher than the last problem. So listen up. I think if you can get this one, you can just about tackle any of these. Like the last video, I would try to spot the roots, but in this case, we can spot them pretty well. We can tell that they are 1/2 and -3.5. So let's just go with that first. And let's write down the x-intercepts. So I would write x is equal to 1/2 and -3.5. Now this is going to be important for later. There's a big temptation, especially for me being a decimal person, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are, to write it in decimals. But with quadratics, we're going to want to write them as improper fractions. So -3.5 as an improper fraction is -7/2. Okay. Let's get a little deeper into the problem now. Let's go for the vertex. So we started here. Second, we'll go for the vertex, which is -1.5 over and 4 up. So -1.5, let's get used to writing it like this, and 4 up. Okay, so if this was a test question, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, and we're already 2 points of the way in already. So let's go next. Let's get a little deeper into the problem, and let's go for the vertex form of the equation. So that's what we're going to do third. So y is equal to, now this parabola is opening down, so we know that there's going to be a negative involved, and then parentheses x, and then just like the last problem, we know that this right here is the vertex of the parabola. So, I'm sorry, this right here is the vertex of the parabola. So x take away h would be actually x plus, because it's x minus -3/2, so x plus 3/2. And then in parentheses squared, and then plus k, which in this case is 4. So now we have it in vertex form. So now we got to go vertex form, and we got to figure out what these other things are. So I'm going to go next to standard form. So on your papers, I would like it if you were to show it just like I am on mine, and this is where it's going to get a little involved. So in order to do that, I'm going to FOIL this and add 4. Okay, and in order to show that work, and I'm going to need to see the shown work on this assignment and on the test, so you're going to have to go up here and write out the problem. So take a second and do that. And we're going to FOIL this thing and add 4, and then essentially we'll have it in the standard form of the equation. So we're going to have negative, okay, we got x times x. Well, let's just leave that on the outside for now, and then we'll multiply everything by -1. So x times x is x squared, that's the first, and then the outer would be 3/2x, the inner would be 3/2x. So at that point, we would have to go 3/2x plus 3/2x and get the sum total. So 3/2x plus 3/2x is 6/2x, and 6/2x is 3x. And then we would multiply our last terms, and 3/2 times 3/2 is 9/4. And then after we multiply all this by -1, we're going to add 4 to the total. So we're going to have, distribute our -1 is going to give us -x squared minus 3x minus 9/4 plus 4. Here's our like terms. So we already know over here in the standard form of the equation, it's going to be -x squared minus 3x. And now we got to put the two of these together. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. I'd probably go -9/4 plus 16/4. And that is going to take us to 7/4 positive is equal to y. So at this point, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, we talked about how in standard form it goes A, B, and C is the y-intercept. So in doing that, we just solved for the coordinates of the y-intercept. So the y-intercept would be 0 over and 7/4 up. Now, if I wanted to get really nitpicky about things, and I probably will on this test, I can see that they want the coordinates of the x-intercepts. So technically the right answer would be 1/2, 0, and -7/2, 0. Okay, last but certainly not least is going to be the factor form of the equation. So in order to do this, we need to think about what the roots are. So we know that the answers to this problem are 1/2 and 7/2. So I'm going to slowly start to build what this is going to look like. So I know that y is going to equal some kind of a negative a here that we'll figure out later. And then with these as the answers. So here is what that's going to look like, and this does take just a little bit of practice. But this is going to turn into 2x minus 1. And the reason for that is because we know that 1/2 is an answer, and 2 times 1/2 is 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0, which is what we want. Okay, so a good rule to memorize is basically the denominator is going to go here, times x, the opposite of the sign, so this is positive, and make this negative, and then take away the numerator. And then if you follow the same logic for -7/2, I would take my denominator and go 2x, and this one is negative, so I'm going to go plus, and then I'm going to take the numerator, 7, and then you can see when you take -7/2 and you put it in here, 2 times -7/2 is going to give you -7, and -7 plus 7 is 0. Now there would be a big tendency here to want to stop, but we know that there is a negative a negative something here in front of the parentheses. So this is really the most important part of the video. So we know that when we FOIL this thing, it would turn into this. So 2x times 2x would give us 4x squared. So you can already tell that this is 1/4 of that. So I know that there is a -1/4 in front of here, but just to prove that, a helpful thing to do is to plug in a point and solve for a, which is actually what a couple of my student aides, 6th period, who take Algebra 2 over at Sunset were telling me what they do, and it wasn't really presented to us in our module. So we know that the vertex is -3/2, 4. So we're going to plug that in here and solve it for a. So we know that y is equal to 4, so I want you to write this down here. 4 is equal to our unknown a value, and then we're going to go here, parentheses, 2 times x, so when x is, when y is 4, x is -3/2. So 2 times -3/2, it gets a little busy here, take away 1, following this form here, times 2 times -3/2 plus 7. So we're going to solve this whole thing down here and make sure that you have it all. I'll need to see this work on the test. We're going to solve this whole thing for a. So 4 is going to equal 2 times -3/2 would be -6/2, which is -3, and -3 minus 1 is -4. So we have a times -4 times whatever all this is. So again, 2 times -3/2 is going to be -3, and -3 plus 7 is going to be 4. -4 times 4 is 16, so 4 is equal to -16a. And then when I divide both sides by -16, I have a is equal to 4 over -16, and then a is equal to -1/4. And then I'm going to put it right here. And now everything is complete and correct. So again, this is how we get a, and that is the main new thing of this video. Thank you.